The crisp winter air bit at my cheeks as I stood at the edge of the outdoor ice rink, my breath forming small clouds that disappeared into the night sky. My name is Ethan, and at 27, I'd somehow managed to avoid learning how to ice skate properly despite growing up in a town where winter sports were practically a religion. I clutched the railing, watching couples glide effortlessly across the ice, their laughter floating through the air like the snowflakes that occasionally drifted down from above. The local park's annual winter festival was in full swing, and the rink was surrounded by trees adorned with thousands of twinkling lights that reflected off the ice, creating a magical atmosphere that felt both enchanting and, for someone standing alone, a bit isolating. I'd come here on a whim after a particularly difficult week at work. My friends had all made excuses: too cold, too busy with holiday preparations, too tired. And rather than spend another Friday night alone in my apartment, I decided to venture out. It'll be fun, I had told myself. You don't need anyone else to enjoy yourself. But as I watched the couples holding hands and the groups of friends supporting each other through wobbly attempts at skating, I couldn't help but feel the familiar ache of loneliness creep in. The festive music playing through the speakers, a mix of holiday classics and upbeat pop songs, seemed to mock my solitude. I adjusted my scarf and took a deep breath. I had rented the skates. I might as well try to use them. Pushing away from the railing, I took a tentative step onto the ice, immediately feeling my ankles wobble beneath me. My arms flailed as I sought balance, earning a few amused glances from more experienced skaters passing by. Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like the feeling of knowing you're about to fall in a very public place. Your body tenses, your heart races, and time seems to slow down as you anticipate the inevitable impact and embarrassment. I was in that precise moment, legs splayed awkwardly, center of gravity shifting dangerously, when I felt a presence beside me. Need a hand. The voice was warm, slightly amused, but not mocking. I turned my head slightly, careful not to disrupt my already precarious balance, and found myself looking into the most striking blue eyes I'd ever seen. They belonged to a man about my age, maybe a year or two older, with dark hair peeking out from beneath a knitted beanie and a smile that somehow managed to be both confident and kind. I'm fine, I lied, my feet sliding further apart as if determined to prove me wrong. Just getting my ice legs. He chuckled, a rich sound that seemed to cut through the cold air. Your ice legs seem to be heading in opposite directions. He held out his gloved hands. I'm Noah, and I promise I'm a better skating instructor than I am a comedian. I hesitated for a moment. There's always that split second of calculation when a stranger offers help, a weighing of pride against practicality, of stranger danger against human connection. But something in Noah's expression, an openness, a genuine warmth, made the decision easy. Ethan, I replied, reaching for his hand just as my right foot slid forward, throwing me completely off balance. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Instead of letting me fall, Noah moved swiftly, positioning himself in front of me. Here, he said, taking both my hands and guiding them to his chest. Use me for balance. Suddenly, I was steady again, my hands pressed against the soft material of his coat, feeling the solid warmth of him beneath. I could feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat under my palms, a stark contrast to my own racing pulse. His hands gently held my wrists, ensuring I stayed upright. There you go, he said softly, his breath visible in the cold air between us. Not so bad, right? I became acutely aware of how close we were standing, of the small audience our near disaster had attracted, and of the strange intimacy of touching a stranger this way. I should have felt embarrassed or uncomfortable, but instead, I felt anchored. Safe. Thanks. I managed, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. I was about 2 seconds away from becoming a human snowplow. Noah laughed, and I felt the vibration of it under my hands. Well, we can't have that. The ice has just been resurfaced. He looked down at my rental skates. First time, is it that obvious? I asked, attempting to adjust my stance without removing my hands from their safe harbor. Let's just say you have a certain, authentic enthusiasm. His eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But everyone starts somewhere. I was a disaster my first time too. I found that hard to believe, watching how confidently he stood on the ice, how naturally he had moved to catch me. Somehow I doubt that. It's true, he insisted. I was 7, and I cried after falling the first 12 times. My dad had to bribe me with hot chocolate to get me back on the ice the next day. He shifted slightly, adjusting his grip on my wrists. Speaking of which, what do you say we try moving a bit? Just small steps. I won't let you fall. There was something in the way he said it. A simple promise about skating that somehow felt like it contained multitudes. I nodded, suddenly determined to at least try. Okay, just shift your weight from side to side, like you're gliding, Noah instructed. Don't pick your feet up too much. Let the skate do the work. I followed his guidance, moving my feet tentatively. We must have made a strange picture. A grown man with his hands pressed against another man's chest, taking baby steps on the ice while couples and children glided past us. But Noah didn't seem to care, and gradually, neither did I. That's it, he encouraged as I found a shaky rhythm. You're getting it. I wouldn't go that far. I laughed, but I was starting to feel less like a newborn giraffe and more like someone who might eventually learn to skate without causing bodily harm to myself or others. As we slowly made our way around the edge of the rink, Noah told me he was a graphic designer who had moved to town 3 years ago for a job at a local marketing firm. He'd grown up in Minnesota, which explained his comfort on the ice. Saturday mornings were for hockey practice from age 8 through high school, he explained. I wasn't great, but I loved it. I can't imagine being comfortable enough on these death blades to actually play a sport, I admitted, still concentrating hard on my feet. Says the man who's currently skating, Noah pointed out. Look at you now. You haven't fallen once. Because I'm using you as a human guardrail, I reminded him. Noah's eyes met mine. Maybe, but you're still doing it. There was something about the way he looked at me, like he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, that made my chest tighten in a not unpleasant way. I realized I was still pressing my hands against him, though I had gained enough confidence that I probably didn't need to anymore. Neither of us mentioned it. Instead, I told him about my job as an elementary school librarian, about moving back to my hometown after college with big plans to leave again once I'd saved some money, about how 5 years had somehow slipped by. It's not that I don't like it here, I explained as we completed our first full circuit of the rink. It's just not what I imagined for myself. And what did you imagine? Noah asked, his voice genuinely curious. The question caught me off guard. When was the last time someone had asked me that? When was the last time I had even asked myself? I'm not sure anymore, I admitted. Something different. Something more. Noah nodded as if he understood completely. Sometimes the hardest part is figuring out what more looks like. As we continued around the rink, Noah gradually helped me become more independent, first by moving to skate beside me with just one hand providing support, then by showing me how to use my own momentum to glide forward. Each small success felt like a victory, made sweeter by his enthusiastic encouragement. You're a good teacher, I told him after successfully navigating a slightly crowded section of the rink. You're a quick learner, he countered. Most people take longer to get comfortable. The compliment warmed me more than it should have. Well, I have good motivation not to embarrass myself in front of the entire town. Noah's smile turned slightly mischievous. And here I thought the motivation was spending more time with me. I nearly missed a step, caught off guard by the flirtatious tone. Was he just being friendly, or was there something more? I'd been out of the dating scene for so long that my ability to read signals felt rusty at best. That too, I finally said, deciding to match his tone and see what happened. Though I'm not sure how impressed you are by my stellar athletic abilities. Very impressed, Noah assured me with a laugh. Olympic Committee should be calling any day now. As the evening progressed, the rink became less crowded. The families with young children departed first, followed by the teenagers who had places to be and things to do that were apparently more exciting than ice skating. The music shifted to slower, more romantic songs, and the lighting seemed to dim slightly, creating an even more intimate atmosphere. Noah and I continued skating, our conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. I learned that he had a younger sister who was studying marine biology, that he was allergic to cats, but had one anyway. Her name is Calamity, and she's worth the antihistamines, and that he made amazing homemade pasta, but couldn't bake to save his life. In turn, I told him about my collection of first-edition children's books, my disastrous attempt at growing vegetables last summer, and my secret dream of writing a book someday. It was strange how comfortable I felt sharing these pieces of myself with someone I'd just met, but there was something about Noah that invited confidence. So why are you here alone tonight? He asked eventually, The question I had been half expecting all evening. Seems like the kind of place people usually come with friends or dates. I considered deflecting with humor, but decided on honesty instead. My friends were busy, and dates, well, those have been in short supply lately. I glanced at him. What about you? Why are you skating alone on a Friday night? Noah was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. I just moved to a new apartment on the other side of town. It's closer to work, which is great, but… He shrugged. I guess I'm still figuring out how to make it feel like home. Being here, around people, even strangers, it helps. I understood that feeling all too well, the paradoxical comfort of being alone in a crowd. And then you found a struggling skater to rescue. I added. Very heroic of you. Purely selfish, actually, Noah replied with a smile that made my stomach flip. Saw a cute guy who looked like he could use some help, and thought, this is your chance, Noah. The directness of his comment caught me off guard, and I felt heat rise to my cheeks despite the cold air. Before I could formulate a response, my skate caught on a rough patch of ice, and I stumbled forward. Noah reached out to steady me, but my momentum was too great. We both went down, landing in a tangle of limbs on the cold surface. For a second, we just lay there, the shock of the fall giving way to the absurdity of the situation. Then Noah started laughing, and I couldn't help but join in. We must have looked ridiculous, two grown men sprawled on the ice, laughing like children. Are you okay? He asked between chuckles, his face close to mine. My pride is mortally wounded, but otherwise I'm fine, I assured him. Sorry for taking you down with me. Worth it, he said simply, his eyes holding mine. We were still tangled together, his arm partially beneath me, my leg thrown over his. I became acutely aware of how close we were, of the warmth of his body contrasting with the cold ice beneath us, of the way his laughter had faded into something more intense. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me right there on the ice. Part of me wanted him to. Instead, he gently disentangled himself and stood up, offering me his hand. Come on. I think we've entertained the other skaters enough for one night. He helped me to my feet, and we made our way to the edge of the rink, moving more carefully after our fall. My heart was still racing, though whether from the fall or the moment that followed, I wasn't entirely sure. How about some hot chocolate? Noah suggested as we stepped off the ice. There's a stand over by the park entrance. My treat, for being such a good student. Seems like I should be the one treating you, I countered. For the rescue and the lessons. Noah smiled. We can argue about it over hot chocolate. We returned our skates and made our way to the small wooden stand decorated with fairy lights, where a woman in a Santa hat was serving hot drinks. The line was short, and soon we were sitting on a bench slightly removed from the main path, warming our hands on paper cups filled with rich, steaming chocolate topped with whipped cream and a sprinkle of cinnamon. So, Noah said after taking a sip, was tonight what you were hoping for when you decided to come skating alone? I laughed softly. Definitely not what I was expecting. I thought I'd make a few wobbly circuits, maybe people watch for a bit, then go home and tell myself I'd done something social. And instead, I looked at him, taking in the way the lights from the park illuminated his features. Instead, I met someone who turned what could have been a lonely evening into something special. The word hung between us, simple but laden with meaning. Noah's expression softened. I'm glad I decided to come tonight too. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping our drinks and watching the skaters still circling the rink. The night had grown colder, but I felt warm inside in a way that had nothing to do with the hot chocolate. Can I tell you something? Noah asked suddenly, his voice quieter than before. Of course. He looked down at his cup, turning it slowly in his hands. When I saw you at the rink, looking so determined despite being clearly terrified. He smiled at the memory. I wasn't just offering to help because you looked like you needed it, or even because I thought you were cute, though that's definitely true. He looked up, meeting my eyes. There was something about you that I recognized. A kind of, I don't know, a loneliness that matched my own, maybe. His honesty took my breath away. It would have been easy to make this evening a light, flirtatious encounter. Enjoyable, but ultimately superficial. Instead, he was offering something deeper, more vulnerable. I know what you mean, I said softly. I've been feeling disconnected lately, like I'm just going through the motions. I took a deep breath. Tonight is the most alive I've felt in a long time. Noah's eyes held mine, and in them I saw understanding, empathy, and something more, a spark of possibility that made my heart race. Slowly, deliberately, he reached out and took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. "I'd really like to see you again, Ethan," he said, his voice low but clear. "Not just for skating lessons. Though we can do that too if you want." The hopefulness in his expression made something bloom in my chest, a feeling I had almost forgotten, a mixture of excitement and anticipation and possibility. "I'd like that," I replied, squeezing his hand. "A lot." His smile was like the sun breaking through clouds, brilliant and warming. "Good. That's really good." We sat there on the bench, hand in hand, finishing our hot chocolate and talking about everything and nothing. Favorite movies, childhood memories, the best places to get pizza in town. When our cups were empty and the park was beginning to empty, Noah stood up, still holding my hand. "Can I walk you to your car?" he asked. "I'd like that," I replied, reluctant for the evening to end, but feeling a pleasant anticipation for what might come next. As we walked through the park, our breath visible in the cold air, Noah's hand remained firmly in mine. The simple contact felt both thrilling and comfortable, as if we'd done this many times before. When we reached my car, I turned to face him, suddenly nervous in a way I hadn't been all evening. "Thank you for tonight," I said. "For the skating lessons, and everything else." Noah stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "Thank you for falling," he said with a small smile. "Both literally and, well, hopefully the other way too, eventually." My heart skipped at his words. "I think I'm already halfway there," I admitted, surprising myself with my boldness. Noah's smile deepened, and he reached up to gently touch my cheek. "Can I kiss you goodnight?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. In answer, I leaned forward, closing the distance between us. His lips were soft and warm against mine, the kiss gentle at first, then deeper as he pulled me closer. I felt his arms wrap around me, steadying me just as they had on the ice, but this time with a different kind of urgency. My hands found their way to his chest again, no longer for balance, but to feel the rapid beating of his heart that matched my own. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Noah rested his forehead against mine. "Definitely worth the fall," he murmured. I laughed softly, feeling lighter than I had in months, maybe years. "Definitely." We exchanged phone numbers, and Noah insisted on texting me right away, so you know it's real and not just some ice rink fantasy. His message was simple, just a snowflake emoji, but it made me smile nonetheless. "I'll call you tomorrow," he promised as I unlocked my car. "Maybe we can get dinner? Or we could try skating again if you're feeling brave." "Dinner sounds perfect," I replied. "I think I've had enough skating excitement for one day." He laughed and leaned in for one more quick kiss. "Good night, Ethan. Drive safe." "Good night, Noah." As I drove home through the quiet streets, the events of the evening replayed in my mind. What had started as a lonely night had transformed into something unexpected and wonderful. I thought about Noah's hands guiding mine, his laughter when we fell, the warmth in his eyes when he asked to see me again, and the feeling of his lips against mine. Life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. Sometimes you go to an ice rink alone on a cold winter night, just trying to fill the hours, and instead, you find a connection that warms you from the inside out. Sometimes you stumble and fall, only to be caught by someone who sees in you what you've forgotten to see in yourself. In the days and weeks that followed, Noah and I continued to see each other. Our first official date was dinner at a small Italian restaurant where we talked until the staff began stacking chairs around us. Our second date was a movie that neither of us paid much attention to, too distracted by the simple pleasure of being close to each other. By our third date, it felt like we'd known each other for years rather than days. We returned to the ice rink too, on a night much like the one when we first met. This time, I was slightly more confident on my skates, though I still held Noah's hand tightly as we glided across the ice. When we reached the spot where we had fallen that first night, Noah pulled me close and kissed me under the twinkling lights, uncaring of the other skaters around us. "Remember when you guided my hands to your chest that first night?" I asked him later as we sat drinking hot chocolate on what had become our bench. Noah nodded, a smile playing at his lips. "Best teaching technique I've ever improvised." "Was it really improvised?" I teased. "Or was it all part of your master plan to sweep me off my feet? Literally and figuratively?" He laughed, the sound still as warming as it had been that first night. If I had a master plan, it wouldn't have involved both of us ending up on the ice. His expression softened, but I'm glad it happened that way. Some of the best things in life are unplanned. As winter gave way to spring and spring to summer, our relationship deepened. We faced challenges, of course, misunderstandings, busy schedules, the occasional disagreement, but underneath it all was a foundation of connection that had begun that night on the ice. Sometimes I think about how easily things could have gone differently. If I had decided to stay home that night, if Noah had gone skating earlier or later, if he hadn't offered to help, or if I had declined. So many small decisions that led to something so significant. When winter came around again, Noah suggested we visit the ice rink on the anniversary of our meeting. The park looked just as magical as I remembered, the rink surrounded by the same twinkling lights, the air filled with the same festive music. As we laced up our skates, I felt a wave of nostalgia for the night that had changed everything. "Ready?" Noah asked, holding out his hand. I took it, feeling the familiar warmth of his fingers intertwined with mine. "With you?" "Always." We stepped onto the ice together, no longer a teacher and student, but partners, moving in sync. As we completed our first circuit of the rink, Noah slowed to a stop at the exact spot where we had first connected a year ago. "Do you remember this spot?" he asked, his eyes bright with emotion. "How could I forget? This is where you saved me from face-planting in front of half the town." Noah laughed, then grew serious. "This is where my life changed." He took both my hands in his, mirroring our position from that first night, but this time guiding them to his heart with deliberate tenderness. "This is where I found you." And as we stood there on the ice, surrounded by strangers yet completely in our own world, I knew with absolute certainty that what had begun as an unexpected encounter on a lonely winter night had become the greatest gift of my life. A love that had started with a stumble, a fall, and two hands guided to a beating heart. Total _char_count, 18,853.